Alright guys, so I'm pretty sure, like everyone else, when I saw that this palette was launching on Trendmood, I was so excited because I feel like Anastasia was one of those OG brands on YouTube, especially when it came to their eyeshadow palettes that everyone was obsessed with, everyone loved. So when I saw that they were launching this new palette that was in the same packaging as some of their cult classics like Modern Renaissance and Soft Glam, I was so excited and I immediately picked it up. This is their Nouveau? I don't know how to say it if I'm being completely honest. This is the palette. It is gorgeous. It's that same traditional rectangular packaging that Modern Renaissance Soft Glam comes in. So the packaging is a long rectangle and it has kind of like this textured fabric-y feel almost. I love the golden metallic writing, and this little touch almost looks like a lock, but it's not. It has the normal metallic closure, you get the mirror, and it has the nice little golden accents. It's really pretty and it feels very well made. This was made in the USA and you get 0.047 ounces each for shadows. The cool thing about this palette is that Anastasia says that you get twice the amount of product as her old palettes actually, and the pan sizes do look very big and really good sized. So I'm sure you guys have seen the pictures of this palette. This is the color story. It is a beautiful green, very springtime palette. It leans a little bit more on the cool tone side, but there are some warmer tones mixed in, like this right here. And overall, the color story really drew me in. Not only the fact that, you know, Anastasia was releasing a new palette that stirred up a lot of nostalgic feelings, but also the color story is just really unique and really pretty and colorful, but still wearable, I feel. So let me start jabbering on and I'll get into some of the details about this palette. Okay, so this palette retails for $55 on Anastasia's website. It claims to be an all-in-one palette for instant, effortless looks from on the go to ultra glam. So essentially, it's for the one and done kind of gal who just wants to put one shadow all over her lid, or someone who wants to do something a little bit more fun, cut creases, really ultra glam looks. One thing to note is that there are 3 shades that are not for use near the eyes. Obviously, this is an eyeshadow palette, so, you know, it's kind of strange that brands will put pigments like that in the eyeshadow palette. I think they legally have to do that because some of the pigments may stain the skin near your eyes, so technically, it's not for that area. Use it at your own risk. So if that's something that you don't really like, then maybe this palette wouldn't be for you. So you get 12 shades with intense color payoff, neutrals with a natural warm color story, and unique olive tones with stunning metallics and rich mattes. Like I said, I feel like this palette is neutral. It does have some cool tones in here, I will say, like this shade Wings. There are a couple warm tones as well, like Isle. So I went ahead and swatched the palette out for you. I felt like the shades swatched beautifully, especially the shimmers, the metallics. Those were really smooth and buttery and very just gorgeous on my arm. It made me excited to put them on my lids. One thing I will say is that when I was swatching the mattes, they did seem very pigmented, but they're a little bit more on the powdery, dry side, which is typical for Anastasia's eyeshadow formula. When you're applying it and when you're swatching it, there's going to be a little bit more kick up, a little bit more powderiness. So when I was swatching it, I wasn't sure how they were going to apply in the eyes because they didn't seem super creamy, like as I drug them across my skin, but again, they were very pigmented. All of the shades are very beautiful. I love the mixture of warm and cool tones, and I feel like there is a good balance between mattes and shimmers. So you get 5 mattes and 7 shimmers. Some of the shimmers are more glittery than others. So this shade Lily is more of a glittery metallic. You get purple, yellow, green sparkles in the shade, so when you move your eyes, it just catches the light so beautifully. It is so mesmerizing. I would pick this palette up again just for this shade. It is literally so gorgeous. That one is the most glittery, and I've tried every single shade in this palette. I did 2 looks last night just playing around, and I did this look today. I've used every shade in the palette. This one is my favorite. It's the most glittery, but it's not glittery in a childish or tacky way. It still looks very refined and very sophisticated on the eyes. It's so beautiful. The glitter particles are so tiny that it's not distracting, and it doesn't emphasize texture on your eyelids. Sometimes metallic or glittery shadows can make your eyelids look more textured. This one does not. It's very smooth and just so sparkly and so pretty. It makes me feel like a princess when I'm wearing it. It's so gorgeous. Definitely my favorite shade in the palette. Yesterday I did a look that was focused more on the pink tones in the palette. So I started off with Floor in the crease, and then I popped Isle. So I started off with Floor in the crease, which is just a wonderful transition shade. It's pretty much the transition shade I've used for every single look I've done. That's kind of the only transition shade, unless you're deeper in complexion. You can probably get away with Metro or Liberty, but for my complexion, Paloma was more of a bone setting color where you can just use it all over your lid, or as a highlight color. It kind of just matches my skin tone. Fleur is my ideal transition shade. Wonderful, beautiful, pigmented, blended out. I used Metro, which I feel like is the perfect complementary tone to deepen it up. I popped Isle all over the lid, which is it looks a little bit more pink in the pan, since it's, I think, located right next to Fleur, but on the lids, it looks more golden, actually. I was a little bit more surprised. So to amp up the pinkiness, because I didn't want to lose that pinky tone eye look, I went in with Lily, and again, that one was my favorite shade. So sparkly, so beautiful. On the other eye, I went in with Wisteria because, I mean, how could I not test out this beautiful lavender shade? I think as far as pastels go, this was a really nice color. It is very pigmented, and I do love the tone of the shade. I will say that out of all of the shadows that I tested, this one was the most difficult to layer upon itself. I felt like it was a little bit patchy, and if you went to blend it like in your crease, you're going to start blending away the shadow that you placed down originally. So I would recommend using a more tacky base, maybe like an eyeshadow primer, and then going directly in with the shade Wisteria just to get the full opacity, because if you set it with a powder and then you try to start like blending it around, it's not going to stick and it's going to get really patchy. So I think you need to go in with like a glitter glue or a tacky eyeshadow base to really get that color to stick. And I wouldn't use it as a blending shade per se. I would use it more of like, you want to pack it on the lid just to get a more statement look, or maybe even doing a wing liner with it or something like that. It's good in that sense, but not necessarily for blending. So just something to keep in mind if you are thinking about picking up this palette. Then to test out this really unique shade, Peacock. Peacock is very, very unique. It's kind of it's like a deep purpley brown, but it's got a lot of dimension to it. It's got purple, it's got green, it's got a little bit of silver, it's got some pink in there. It's kind of a mishmash of like every shade in the palette. I think it's really unique. For me personally, I tried to layer it on top of Wisteria and it just was a little bit patchy. I don't know if that's because I layered it on top of another shadow. Usually I do that with metallics and shimmers and it's fine, but Peacock got a little bit patchy for me. It is a deeper color, and sometimes that can happen with deeper colors. Personally, I don't really mind this too much because I would personally probably not wear this shadow that often. So if this is the only shadow I don't get a lot of use out of in the palette, then like I'm fine with that because I love all the other shades. But if you're buying the palette just for this shade, I'm not sure if you're gonna be super satisfied, because again, on me it was a little bit patchy. Today I wanted to play with the greens since I did the pinks and the purple and the Peacock yesterday. So I went in with Flora as my transition shade. I deepened up the outer corner with Liberty, which is a beautiful olive green. Sometimes olive greens can blend out to be more gray, but this one really retained its color. and blended really nicely. You have to work with it a little bit more because again, these shadows are a little bit more on the powdery side, but I feel like everything blended together really beautifully. And if Lily is my favorite shade in the palette, Wings is my second favorite shade. It is just so beautiful. It's like a mint, but still like olive and wearable. It's so beautiful. It's more of a cool tone green. I can't even really describe it, and it's light enough to where it brightens up your lid. Sometimes greens can be a little bit more smoky or warm. This one I feel like you can pair it with more cool tones and it would look fabulous, like with wisteria or with pinks, and it's just gorgeous. I popped Isle in the inner corner. I do wish that there was something maybe a little bit lighter than Isle, like a lighter shimmer shade just for my skin tone, because for me, Isle is a little bit deep for the inner corner and I don't always want an ivory, like matte inner corner, so that's the only thing that I would prefer. And I also want to mention that I used Muse yesterday when I was playing with Wisteria and Peacock. I used Muse on the outer corner. This is the deepest shade in the palette, but surprisingly, I thought it was going to be a matte, but it's not. It's a shimmer, but it's the least shimmery of all of the shimmers, if that makes sense. So Lily is more of a glittery shade. Wings, Isle, Belle, Hope, these are all metallics, like true, like creamy, opaque shimmers. Peacock has a little bit of sparkle in it. Lily is the most sparkly, and Muse it's a metallic, but it's more of a satiny finish, if that makes sense. So you can use it to deepen up the outer corner. You could use it as a liner, and I don't think it would look weird because it's not like a super shiny metallic. So yeah, guys, overall, I really love this palette. I think the shades are really pigmented. The metallics are so beautiful. Again, just think about what shades you are going to use the most, and if this color story speaks to you, I don't think you're going to be disappointed. Keep in mind that the pastel lavender is going to be a little bit more finicky, and Peacock might not be the most opaque and easy to work with shimmer. But aside from those two shades, everything else was very, very creamy, very blendable, very pigmented, no complaints. It's a little bit pricey, so again, if you think it's something worth investing in, then that's totally a personal choice. But overall, I'm very happy with this purchase. I love the looks that I created. And yeah, I hope you guys found this video helpful, found the swatches helpful. I love you guys so much. Please give this video a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will catch you in my next video. Bye.
I can take you anywhere, I could take you home. I just wanna be there so you never feel alone. I know how it feels to be lost inside this world. Don't give up, no. It's hard to know who you are when you don't know where to start.